What was the conduit in the WWF?
So I kept 1 year in. There was a Pro Wrestling Illustrated that used to come out. And, they had the PWI 500.
Yeah.
Then they would also have an issue that would come out, and it had all of the addresses for all the major wrestling companies in the country.
Okay.
And the first page was WWF. The second page was WCW. The third page was ECW. And then there would be like smaller blocks on the for the rest of the magazine for all these other independent wrestling organizations. And WWF was right there, 1241 East Main Street, Stamford, Connecticut. And I remember 06902. And I put together a tape, and I'm like, I'm going to send this in. I remember asking this local promoter, I was like, I'm going to send this tape. You think I should send it? And he was like, don't send the tape. You're not. You're way too green.
Right.
They're going to see it. They're going to and then they're always going to put you into that box. And I just remember thinking like, no, I'm going to send it. And even if they do think it's the shit.
This is ballsy.
Yeah, big time. If you go back and watch my match from 1 year in, it was terrible. It was. I definitely wouldn't send that to somebody today. But I remember thinking, if it sucks, if it's the shits, they'll tell me about it. And then 6 months later, when I send another tape, then they'll see that I've improved. And that was my mentality. And I sent it, and a week later, Kevin Kelly called me and said, Ken, I got your tape. I liked it. I want to bring you in for extra work. We're doing Chicago and Milwaukee, and gave me the details. And so I went, and I was an extra, and I was nervous as hell.
I bet.
I go from being a fan to standing behind Steve Austin and catering, getting
the guy you'd originally watched.
That was like the guy that got me into the business, right? And so I started sending tapes on a regular basis. Like every 3 to 6 months, I'd send a new tape, and I would call Kevin and say, Kevin, I see that you guys are in Cleveland and Detroit for Raw and SmackDown. Can I be an extra?
Right.
Yep, you can do that. And so I started doing that. I probably had I ended up in Cleveland, my first dark match, or it was actually on Jacked, I think. There was a show called Jacked. And I worked Esse Rios and in a little squash match. And so I just started doing that, and I would send tapes, and then it became, Kevin Kelly left, and it became Dr. Tom Pritchard, and I developed a relationship with him. And then that I still have to this day, and then it became Tommy Dreamer, and so I started having a back and forth with Tommy, and then I was at Raw or SmackDown. And the nice thing about it was they used to allow the extras to actually get in the ring and wrestle during the day.
Okay.
So for whatever reason on this day... Were
the guys down like working with you guys?
No, they would say like the extras, go get your shit on and go stand by the ring. And then they would go, all right, you guys can get in. And we would do like these tag in, tag out drills. So two guys would get in the ring and just... chain around a little bit, and then you'd tag somebody else. And
would Tom be running that, or
no? It would be Arn Anderson and Fit Finley would be standing there. And
what do they know?
Yeah, right. And then there were times too where those guys would be just working with Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, and we would just sit there and like sponges. They would almost put on these little clinics. And I remember one day I was in there, I was doing that little tag in, tag out drill. And for whatever reason, there was a meeting. So everybody, all the staff, the arena was completely empty except for Jim Ross and Paul Heyman had skipped out on the meeting, and they were sitting ringside. And I tagged out. I got in and I did my stuff, and I tagged out. And Paul said, come here for a second. And I walked over to him. He was like, who trained you? And I said, I got trained by two guys in Green Bay, Mike Mercury and Eric Hammers. And then I said, I went to Brad Rangan's school for some finishing or whatever. And he was like, oh, I know. He knew Brad. Obviously, Brad trained Brock. And he was like, and we had a really good conversation. And then he said, I would like to see you cut a promo later today. And then he gave me his number and told me to call him, and I called him every day for like the next 6 months and never got a call back.
I don't feel bad.
No, I did. And then, I'd run into somebody and tell them, and they were like, that's just Paul, don't worry about it. That's just a business, I think, right?
Well, it shows, like, again, for any of the young wrestlers, the wannabes out there, that was unheard of in the business, sending in tapes every so often and following up, and that's a professional way to approach it. Oddly enough, that was what started happening in ECW. Like, once we got ECW and running, people started sending tapes in, or they'd come by and Tracy would run the tryouts in the ring or whatever. So like, because there's a lot going on here, we're squeezing a lot of stuff in, and like, and we'll come back in a later episode because I want to get deeper into this. But so now that you've gotten the attention, which is the hard part, right? I mean, it's 1,000. How many wrestlers in the country are there? How many people have a pair of boots?
Yeah,
and they all say they're good, they can do it, right? But it seems to me as you're telling this story, Jim Ross and Arn and Fit and all these people that are each taking their time, because when I went there in the first time, I told you there was no guarantee of a job. It was just I would do the same thing only because Dominic told me. Just periodically call Pat, just say hello. I never once asked for a job or anything. But when I left WCW and I called him, he said, "We got something. We'll bring you up and give you a chance." And so I'm seeing the similarities. But again, like I'm just in my head, I'm sort of scattershot here because I can't imagine me being ballsy enough to send a videotape of me of some local match that I had somewhere, because these are the best of our best in the business, supposedly, right?
Yeah.
So like, you talked about your friends earlier that helped you, like sort of got you back to watching wrestling. Did any of them endeavor to get into the business or follow you?
Mm-hmm.
No,
not any of them.
So they got you and shoved you out there. Hey, see if he sinks or swims, right?
Yeah, in fact, they didn't even they were just sort of casual fans. They weren't even diehards.
Yeah.
I became a diehard.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm going to do this. And when I decided I was going to do it, I was like, I'm going to make it to WWF or WWE.
Yeah. So now, again, let's just jump forward a little bit because I want to hopefully get to something here by the end. With you're doing this, you're sending this stuff in, you talk to Paul, you do these things and stuff. Where from there? Like, where does Mr. Kennedy, when does Ken Kennedy get this call from the company?
So that's a great question. So Paul Heyman had said, I like you, I'm going to go to bat for you, whatever. Arn Anderson actually said after because he would be my producer. I did a lot of dark matches and squash matches, and he would always say like, "Sorry, kid, tonight's not your night.
Yeah,
it's his night." And I would be like, "Arn, I know,
no problem." Yeah,
yep. And he knew that, and to
a guy, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but for a guy like Arn, seeing a kid come in and say that, he's royalty in our business, right? He knows this. The kid's got the right attitude, right? He's like, "Hey, make me the star tomorrow. Where's my belt?" Right?
Yeah, right. And my idea was like, I wasn't trying to get my shit in. It was, I want to get your shit in and make you look good. And in doing so, you end up looking good.
Yeah, sure.
Because
absolutely,
he gets it. He knows.
Yes.
And so Arn said, I don't say this very often, but the next time they're having a round of hiring, I'm going to go to bat for you. I'm going to put your name in there. I can't guarantee you anything.
Sure.
And then I remember Daivari called me one day. Daivari was my best friend in the business. And and he had gotten hired by the company about a year before I did. And he said, "Did you get a call from Tommy today?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, they hired 8 guys from the Louisville area. You should be getting a call. If you're going to get a call, you'll get a call soon."
Right.
And so I just waited by the phone all weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Time flowing backward,
Monday,
right?
Nothing. Tuesday, and every time that there would be a unknown number, I would answer it, and it was a bill collector. But I would just let that stuff go to voicemail, but I was answering everything.
Sure.
Nothing. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to call Tommy. And I used to call him, like I said, once every 3 to 4 weeks and just check in with him.
Sure.
And I would always say, "Hi, Tommy Dreamer. This is Ken Anderson from Green Bay." And he would go, "Hello, Ken Anderson from Green Bay." And then he would oftentimes say, "I'm sorry, I'm busy. I can't talk to you right now. I will call you back." And then he would never call me back.
Mr. Excitement, Tommy.
Yeah. I just won the Super Bowl. I just won $1 billion in the lottery. So I called. I was on my break at work, and I made that call. And I said, "Tommy, this is Ken Anderson from Green Bay." He goes, "Ken Anderson from Green Bay. hang on a second. And I hear him shuffling some papers around.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on hold for a second. And I was like, this never happens. This is, yeah. And so he comes back and he goes, I've been trying to call you, but your number is disconnected. And I was like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And he goes, is your number blah, 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 blah? And I said, no. He goes, oh, I've been calling the wrong number. And he goes, well, the reason I was calling you was to tell you that I got you a job.
Wow.
And I was just like.
And what year is this?
This was 2004 or 2005. And
okay.
I'm like, wanting to do backflips.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, and
of course.
Containing myself. And he just kind of went through, I don't know if you're going to go to OVW, or at the time they were opening up Deep South in Atlanta, but they hadn't opened it yet. He's like, I don't know if you're going to go there, if you're going to go to OVW, but so is there anything else you want to tell me? And I was like, Tommy, thank you for believing in me, giving me this opportunity. I'm gonna do. And he goes, okay, you don't have to go getting all lame on me. And that was it. Yeah. And like I said, like I didn't know where I was gonna go. And Davari was like, you don't want to go to Deep South because OVW is established.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen at Deep South.
Right.
They literally could pull the plug on it next week, but OVW is not going anywhere. So he actually talked to Tommy and said, can you send him to OVW? Send him to OVW. And so then Tommy said, you can go to OVW. Well, he also told me, he was like, just stand by. We'll call you in a couple weeks for you to come down. Well, I went and I put in my 2-week notice, and I went down, and over the phone, I found an apartment, sent in my deposits, and got a place. And I remember I moved down there. We loaded everything up in a U-Haul and moved down there. My girlfriend at the time, and we moved everything in. And I called Tommy, and I was like, Tommy, is there any way that I'm in Louisville. Is there any way that I could go over and like introduce myself to the people at OVW? And he was like, yeah. He goes, TV tomorrow. Are you there just like looking for a place? And I was like, no, I'm here. And he goes, wait, you're there? You live there? Yeah. And I was like, yes. And he goes, well, then go introduce yourself tomorrow, and then you can start the next day.
Wow.
And like I said, who knows? Like, because I had known some people who had gotten contracts who were told, sit tight.
Yeah.
And then 8 months goes by, they're still sitting at home, and then they ended up getting released. And I was like, I'm not letting that happen to me.
But it shows volition, right? I mean, you're showing the company that you're invested in it.